Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Lazy Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Sam Priestley, and we've got Emma back with us.
Hello.
Emma, it's been a bit weird the last few episodes. In fact, I've recorded about 5 or 6 in the last few weeks without you on it.
I know. I've been missing out.
Yeah.
I've been listening to them though. They've been good.
Oh, good. But not as good as with you, obviously.
Obviously.
So welcome back to our regular broadcasting. Today I wanted to talk about, is it better to build multiple income streams or focus on just one?
Sounds
topic I'm sure you're very interested in.
Very familiar.
Very familiar. It's one, we're 30 episodes into this podcast and we haven't yet spoken about it.
Yeah, and it's a key part of our life.
Well, it's quite an interesting discussion, I think. And it's not an easy answer.
No. And it's quite a weird way to live your life. I mean, I always complain, people, when I talk about the gin business, they say, oh, is that your full-time job? And I find that really frustrating because there isn't really, it's not my full-time job when you compare it to the hours I put in at PwC, but it does provide income and I do other jobs. So people don't really get their head around the fact that you can do more than one company or job at one time.
Yeah, when people ask me what I do, I always say, bit of this, bit of that.
Yeah, people don't understand.
Come off like a wheeler dealer.
Yeah.
But that's not really accurate, is it?
No.
It's also one of the criticisms I get quite a lot. Why are you always starting new businesses? Why aren't you just focusing on one?
Yeah.
Valid. Because if you're always starting new businesses and never...
You're neglecting the others.
You're neglecting the other ones, yeah. If you build multiple different businesses, then you're never really going to give any single one all the attention it deserves.
Which is what you want to do. You don't want to do one business that you focus on forever. You want to do loads of different things and it constantly change because you get bored of one business. Doesn't mean you completely neglect it. You still carry on ordering more stock or writing more content or whatever. But what drives you, what gets you out of bed in the morning is something new. Yeah.
So there's a few things there, aren't there? One is it depends on your personality. So if you're like me and that's what you enjoy doing, starting new businesses, curious, get bored quickly, don't really like the drudgery of maintenance of a business, but do really enjoy coming up with ideas and getting excited and designing new things and launching stuff.
Yeah.
Then obviously doing multiple businesses suits me quite well. Which then kind of brings on to the second part, where it depends on your goals.
Yeah.
Like, if my goal was to make as much money as possible, would I be doing something different? Would I just be focusing on the highest expected profit business there was?
And that is the gambling. And you made a conscious choice to stop doing the gambling.
Yeah. Well, in this podcast, we talk a lot about lifestyle as well as it's the lazy entrepreneur. The goal is not to become a billionaire.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people can understand that.
No.
I think they think, well, if you've got this brilliant business idea that has this potential to earn you £1 million each year, why don't you do it? But you consciously choose not to do that.
Well, there's more to it than that, I think. There's also, some businesses do seem to hit a point of diminishing returns where there's not an obvious thing you can just do to push it to that next level. I suppose gambling is a good place to start, really, because that's when I got into the multiple income streams.
Yeah.
And the reason was for stability and protection. Because I started with match betting, which is when you take advantage of free bonuses and offers that casinos and bookies give to new customers. So that means that entire income stream is reliant on bookies existing, gambling not being made illegal, them letting me play there, which when you're a profitable player doesn't always happen, and them offering bonuses. Anyone knows things could quite easily have changed, which would have meant that business would have shut down, and then I would have been left with no CV, no career. So that's when I got interested in trying to keep myself safe by starting loads of different businesses, and not just businesses but other income streams. So investing quite a lot of money to get investment income, passive income, which is the main advantage people talk about when it comes to having multiple sources of income.
Yeah. Is
the safety of it.
Yes.
That if one of them fails, then you've got other ones to fall back on.
Yes.
I think there's something about being an entrepreneur, a business owner, that makes you very conscious of the risk and the danger of whatever it is you're doing collapsing.
Yes, but at the same time, you're really you're not risk averse. The thrill of it is that actually around starting new businesses is that they might potentially fail, and by having multiple sources of income and multiple businesses, to some extent, it doesn't matter so much if one fails. But that kind of thrill of, well, this might really take off, or actually it hasn't really taken off, but I've still learned something, is all part of the drive for you, I think.
Well, there's the balancing of risk taking with being sensible and balancing your goals for your life outside of your businesses.
Yeah.
But when you have a job, people in a career, they don't think, well, what if I get fired and lose this job? I better go work at Starbucks on the side or something. No.
And one of our friends has just been fired in a quite secure professional services role. And we're kind of sat around thinking, well, what are they supposed to do next? Like, do they just go to the next professional services and get a job? Or is it now going to be hard for them to get a job because they were fired?
But then again, if you're working in a career like that, you can't say, well, I'm only going to work 2 days a week at this place and 2 days a week as a lawyer and 1 day a week as a banker.
No.
In order to keep yourself secure. And you just can't do that.
And of course,
you'll get nowhere.
Your response to that situation was, well, maybe it's time for a career change.
But why would we think that the correct thing to do if you're focusing on a career is to go 100% on one career, one job, rather than diversify? Whereas when we talk to people starting businesses, we'll often say, think about building multiple income streams so that you're safe.
Yes.
I think there's probably something about the monthly variance and change in how the business is doing that makes you very aware of danger. You're getting your monthly paycheck. It's only when you get fired that suddenly changes.
Oh,
you don't see it going down a little bit, then up a bit the next month, and down a bit more.
Definitely. Like, take any of your retail businesses, so whether it's table tennis bats, whether it's gin, you look at Christmas versus January and to a certain extent February, like, they're polar opposites.
Yeah, well, there's seasonal variant. There's also like output on my behalf variant. There's
stock issues.
There's extra competition. There's stock issues. There's unforeseen disasters. I remember there was an earthquake at a port that had a bunch of our stock in it at one point. Like
I didn't know about that.
How do you prepare for that?
Yeah, but then
random stuff like that.
Things like every year you always say to me, "Oh, it's Chinese New Year."
No work gets done.
No work gets done. And it's kind of like, you say it as if you kind of say it on Chinese New Year Day. It's not, you don't really say it like, oh yeah, we planned that the stock in from China is going to slow down. It just kind of happens each year.
Right, so let's take a step back then and think about these two options that we're often given. One is to really diversify and try and build loads of different sources of income. You might have heard the saying that a typical millionaire has 7 sources of income. Have you heard that before?
No, I've never heard that before.
Sounds like a load of rubbish to me. But that's kind of the advice that a lot of people put out. You should be aiming for 7 for some reason.
And how many do you have?
I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
We'll have a look in a bit. Probably about 7 or 8. And then the other side is that, no, you should just focus on one thing, give it your all, work as really hard as possible, and just try and make that thing the best. And so on one side, if you're building multiple income streams, you're kind of safe, provided they kind of work out, then if one of them fails, you still got other stuff to keep you going. We're in a nice position where if any one business fails completely, it doesn't have any impact on our day-to-day life.
No.
But then on the downside, you've also got this risk of half-arsing it and never actually making any of these businesses or income streams any good, successful at all. There is some benefit to just going 100% on one thing and trying to make that work out.
Definitely. And I think actually if you sat down and looked at all of your businesses from a financial perspective, there might be some changes and there might be some quick wins. Spend a bit of time doing that, and actually it has quite a big impact on your salary that month. But that's not how you live your life.
Well, it's all down to your goals, isn't it?
Yeah.
So which brings us on to, I think, the 3 areas you mentioned earlier: your goals, your personality, and what opportunities are available.
Yeah.
you need to balance all of those to work out how you should be spending your time.
Yeah.
It's not simple as saying you should focus on multiple income streams or you should focus on just one.
Yeah.
You've got to balance these 3 key criteria and work out what is best for you.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the goal is that your lifestyle is your work. You feel like, oh, I've got loads done today. I feel really motivated. Feel like I've achieved a lot.
Yes, that is definitely one of my goals.
Yeah.
And one of the key goals at the moment. But goals can be both short and long term.
Yeah.
They could be, let's say, a family member was going through some problems and we needed to earn a bit of money to support them.
Yeah.
Then suddenly a short-term goal could be, well, I need to earn enough money to pay for this.
Yeah.
Or let's say that something happened and we had a huge bill to pay. I don't know, we're in an accident. Suddenly we need to make everywhere wheelchair accessible.
Yeah.
That's going to cost a fortune. Maybe that would be a short-term goal is I've got this barrier to overcome to do. Or maybe a goal would be if you're doing a business that purpose is not just to make money but is also to do some sort of good in the world, then that's a different type of goal, isn't it? And that's saying actually I'm going to focus on this quite a lot because I'm prioritising the work that this business is doing over my own life.
Yeah, because it's having an impact on my community or certain group of people or whatever. Yeah.
So we're in a situation now where we're kind of focusing the work we're doing around our lifestyle goals, which is kind of to continue living the life that we are living at the moment.
Yeah, the life we want to lead.
Life we want to live. But we also have other goals. So one of your goals is to get better at cooking.
Yeah.
To get more into food and drink.
Yeah.
To network and meet people who you find interesting in that industry. To become a bit better known in that industry as well. Start being thought of as someone who's not just an outside amateur looking in, but actually part of that industry.
Yeah, and another goal is, as it's coming up to International Women's Day, is to encourage other female entrepreneurs. So to share my experience of quitting the 9-to-5 and starting my own businesses, share the realities of it, and to encourage people.
And the way you're doing that is not by focusing on one business, but by doing a little bit of all the stuff that interests you, from doing supper clubs to doing the gym.
Yeah, and networking.
And networking not with a sole goal of pushing one of those businesses, but also, yes, to help those businesses, but also to push you as a personal brand.
Absolutely.
And you as a career person.
Yeah, and I get a lot of validation from networking.
Yeah.
From that I absolutely have made the right decision to quit my 9-to-5. And I'm really happy. So
I think that with you, your goals definitely mattered there. But when it comes to whether you spend more of your time on your supper clubs or doing the gym, that's not just down to your goals. There is other reasons. There's other things in there as to why. Why would you spend a day cooking for the supper club when you could spend that day phoning round 100 new bars to try and get our gin into them? Well, it's a good question. So I try and strike a balance, and I find it quite easy at the moment because the supper clubs, I control how frequently I do them or how infrequently. I try and spread them out. And they are very timely. So I see for example, if I have a supper club today, I would have spent the last few days focusing on the supper club and not the gin. And then when I don't have a supper club on a Friday, I then focus on the gin. So I don't necessarily plan it to have a balance, but I guess I have planned it in that way. And I think the balance you're striking there is not a balance of your overall goals. It is a balance of your personality. Yeah. And by that I mean that they're very different businesses. So Supper Club, you're running completely on your own. You have complete autonomy. You don't need to tell us what you're up to. You can experiment. You can do whatever you want. You don't need to wait for us to approve an idea or anything like that. Which I love. Which you love. You get instant feedback. Yeah. You do it. You put it on. It's quite stressful while it's all going on. But at the end of the day, everyone tells you how great it was and gives you envelopes full of money. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, you got instant satisfaction, instant gratification. You're learning some skills which are good for your overall goal. You're getting that instant income. Whereas Pipe House Gin is a complete opposite business. Yeah. One where all profits are being reinvested into it at the moment. Yeah. It's very hard to give an exact quantifiable idea of how well the day has gone, whether it's been productive or not. You could spend a day going around bars and get nowhere, or you could spend a day going around bars and everyone loves it.
Yeah, I guess I assess a day by how good the news is for that day. So it could be, for example, a brand new bar has just emailed us to say they'd like to place an order. It could even be for one bottle, but that's still good news. Versus, we've had loads of breakages today, or something's been cancelled, or whatever it is.
What you're saying there is that your mood is quite linked to how that business is going. If things go bad and that is your only business, that's the only thing you're focusing on, then that could mean all of your mood is tied to that, or a large part of it.
Yeah, and that's why I love the balance of the supper clubs, because if I'm frustrated with something with the gin, and it could be that a decision's taking a long time, I then flip to supper clubs. I'm like, oh, right, I'm going to go off and do this, because I don't have to wait for anyone to make a decision on this.
Yeah, when you get annoyed at me, you can go off and do something that doesn't involve me.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go back a couple of years to before we were married, where having immediate income coming in was very important.
Yes.
And where you were doing freelance marketing.
Yeah.
So you're doing something you didn't particularly enjoy that much. Yeah. There was quite a lot of work and was quite draining.
Yes.
But something you could have spent all day, every day, working on really hard.
Yeah.
But you couldn't. You physically couldn't sum up the motivation and energy to do it.
Yeah, I mean, and there were so many elements of it, like from the actual business development side. So trawling through Upwork, trying to find relevant projects and then applying for those projects, and then doing the interviews, and then there's the whole bit of balancing my workload. So making sure that I can deliver all the projects, and then then making sure that I was getting paid. The whole thing was absolutely draining. And although I found it quite liberating that I could control what I was going to deliver and how I delivered it, it was very stressful managing. Ultimately, it was to pay my credit card bill at the end of the month. And I knew, because we always pay it 6 weeks after, I knew how much it was. And I found that very stressful.
It was something that the nature of the work meant you couldn't do that many hours of it.
Yes.
Whereas when you're working on the supper club,
yeah,
or you're working on gin now, and then balancing that, you can actually do a lot more hours in a day.
100%, yeah.
And you started doing multiple things while you were still doing the marketing, because when you ran out of energy for writing proposals, you could then decompress from that by doing a more creative business that would still have long-term benefit for you.
Yeah, which was ultimately the supper club.
Doing cooking classes, some personal development things. Even when we started work on the gin, you were also doing a bit of the marketing stuff back then as well.
Yeah.
But it was a way that you could, by building a multiple income stream, you weren't taking away from that freelance marketing stuff.
No.
You were so drained by the freelance marketing stuff that you couldn't do any more of it.
Yes.
So then you started to focus on some other things.
Yeah, but then there was definitely a conscious decision when the gin was kicking off. So once we'd spent quite a long time on the strategy and the planning, and we'd agreed what we were going to do, and it was time to actually launch it and kick it off, and there was a lot to do, I made that conscious decision, right, I'm going to stop doing the marketing. Because I love doing all this gin stuff. I'm getting a lot from it.
Well, I think that brings us on to the third point. So we've done goals and personality so far, and the final one is opportunity. You started working a lot harder on the gin and less on the marketing when there was more opportunity in the gin.
100%.
While we were still waiting for our labels to get printed or whatever, and there wasn't actually that much that could be done, there wasn't that much work to do.
That was so frustrating. Yeah.
When you're setting up a business like that, when you're waiting for licenses to arrive in the post, all this kind of stuff, there sometimes just isn't that much work to do.
Yeah.
Which is when you then go work on the other things.
Yeah.
And with my most profitable business is my table tennis business. But we hit diminishing returns quite a few years ago, where we were the best-selling table tennis bats in the UK. We were doing really well across the rest of Europe and in the States and in Canada and places like that. And we kind of got to this point where we were like, we can put in loads more work and get a small increase in sales, or we can put in hardly any work and it continue being how it is and making good money.
And you can do other stuff.
And do other stuff. And so we decided it wasn't worth putting in all that extra effort. Let's keep the business how it is, maybe a little bit stagnant and not growing, but still making good money and paying us a really nice salary, and then focus on other businesses.
And that's also a good point, because of the way that you like to set up a business is that you love the beginning bit, the creativity, the strategy, and loads of time and energy goes into it up front. And then you develop all of your businesses to be quite low input as they run on a month by month basis, and that's a very purposeful thing for you, so that it does mean per month you could choose to do a bunch more hours or a bunch more blog posts, but at the same time you don't have to get that regular income and for it to continue to run. It's interesting though, because if you compare the businesses that you run at the moment to, say, a coffee shop, they couldn't be any more opposite in terms of input. So the amount of work. So say you owned a coffee shop in Tunbridge Wells, the amount of input you have to put in the beginning of the project and during the business, all day, every day, it's relentless.
Well, I think that's a good example of why you need to include opportunity in your calculation for what you should spend your time doing. Because when I did have a coffee shop, it was something where there wasn't really any opportunity, something that required a lot of work, a lot of input, and where the max potential wasn't particularly high.
Yeah.
Whereas when you compare that to, say, the gin, where we could potentially sell 1 million bottles a year.
Yes.
We're not limited by the number of people walking past our little shop.
Yes.
It's quite different.
Yeah. The opportunity's absolutely there and the market's big enough.
And with something like the coffee shop, I was tied in by staff on salaries. We've got monthly rent. We've got a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, you've got a lot of responsibilities. That's the other thing, isn't it? With a lot of your current businesses, you don't have all those overheads and those responsibilities.
Yeah. So let's sort of summarise a little bit. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, but generally, if you want to make loads and loads of money, focusing on just one business is the way to go.
Yeah. But it is risky. And you could fail. Whereas if you're able to build multiple income streams, I don't mean build them all at the same time. I mean, you can build up one, get it to a point where it's only a nice bit of income, then go and build another one. Actually, the risk of everything falling apart and having to go get a job is quite low. If you were, say today, you've used all your experience and your knowledge so far in setting up businesses, and someone gave you, I don't know, £10,000, £20,000 to start a new business, and as if you've got all the time in the world, you haven't got any other business that you need to focus on, what would that business be? And then what would be the additional income streams that you would add to that?
I would set my goals, and my goals would be to get enough money to support my lifestyle as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And then once I was earning enough money to support my lifestyle, it would then to build in stability with that life. So get to the income target and then make sure I stay at that income target.
Yeah.
So how would I do that? Well, I'd start off by finding a business or income stream that earns money very quickly. And I'd still go back to the gambling for that. Match betting, which I've done podcasts on before, is a very easy way to make a few £1,000s to begin with. And you can take that £10,000 and double it quite quickly. Now, the thing about match betting is that you do end up spending quite a lot of time waiting around for money to be paid out. So once you've got your winnings, you do a withdrawal from a bookmaker, and they might take 4 or 5 days, which is where having a small liquidity, a small cash flow does matter. But that means I would then have a bunch of spare time, which I would then start and focus on longer term projects.
So maybe something like an Amazon FBA product.
Maybe a product for an Amazon business, maybe a blog or a website, something that takes time but very little monetary input at the beginning.
And it could be something on a niche that you were really into.
Yeah. And something like that I know won't make any money for 6 months to a year, but it's something I want to start working on and could then at some point provide one of those extra income streams. So that's what I'd do. And I'd push each one to the max it could. With the Amazon business, we're saying once you've developed your product and you've chosen your prototype and you put in your order for 1,000 units,
you've got stock. Yeah,
you've now got a 6-week wait until they finish that.
So what are you doing in that time?
What are you going to do in that 6 weeks? Well, I'd go and work on something else.
Yeah.
Then once I was earning money, once I was getting money above the income I needed to support my lifestyle, I would then start putting that money into investments, stuff that would earn me an extra source of income.
Yeah.
I've already recorded a podcast on financial independence, but it hasn't been released yet. So that will be coming up, probably the next one after this, where we talk about this quite a bit. And one of the things about financial independence is you build up these passive investments, so stuff like stocks and shares or property or whatever, that will eventually cover most of your expenses just from the income of those. So that's kind of what I'd be working towards. And I'm sure what I was doing would change based on the opportunities that present themselves. That's probably a good place to end this.
Yep, I think so.
There we go. We've had a little chat. We've talked about multiple income streams versus focusing on just one. We said it's not quite as simple as saying that multiple income streams is better or that one income stream is better. It depends on the opportunities that are around you. It depends on your personal goals, and it depends on your personality. Generally, though, multiple income streams are good for stability and for making sure you're not going to lose everything. Whereas a single income stream, a single focus of your attention is good for making money quickly or building a business quickly, but is a lot more risky. And on that note, thank you very much for listening. If you have any feedback, please email me at hello@sampriestley. The show notes are all at sampriestley.com, and you can just click on the podcast tab at the top in order to read about them. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye.